Well, hello, it's Richard Pearce from FinextraTV, and very exciting day today. Sustainable Finance Live, as probably everyone notices, 2024, we had a hackathon, and today I'm joined by the winners of the emerging category, which was a really fabulous entry that we had this year. So I'm joined by Nell, Agate, Tsui. She's the Climate and Nature Risk Lead at HSBC. Also by Wong. She's a Climate and Policy Advocate at the Malaysian Youth Delegate. And by Dr. Nicola, Executive Director, the Systemic Resilience Initiative, Senior Research Fellow for the Institute for New Economic Thinking at the Oxford Martin School. Now, we said what could we do to tune our mouths at the beginning as a tongue twister. I think your title, Nicola, is a tongue twister, isn't it?
Definitely.
Well, it is for me anyway. So listen, so great to have you here with us, and congratulations for being the winner for this particular category. We were focused on a number of different things in the hackathon, all to do with nature and how do we focus on natural capital, how do we price, how do we assess risk, what does this mean in terms of the macroeconomic policy around this area. So much that we were focused on, but I'm going to go to you, Nell, and ask you, what was your solution and how did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, thank you, Richard. So Nature Delta is our company name, if you like, or product name. And the key aim for this piece of work was to connect a broad concept like nature risk, which is obviously multifaceted, highly complex, to individual companies with the overall aim to really encourage a more considered approach for lending and target setting and all that other good stuff that financial sector needs to do and adhere to. I think for us, the kind of a key motivator was kind of deciphering that jumble of complexity and making it actionable. So I guess for some background, really, what happened was I initially proposed 3 solutions aligned to transition risks for nature. And together as a team, you see Q and Nicola here, together as a team, we quickly settled on what would later become core to our MVP for the hackathon for Nature Delta. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's it. And I wanted to get straight into what you propose so that people can, are interested in following up. But for those that, don't even know what a hackathon is, I always describe it as it's a bit like Bake Off, but instead of, eggs, sugar and flour and mortar and producing, a sort of showstopper, what we do is we take code and business ideas and policy and obviously put together solutions as you just described. So Hugh, elaborate on the roles, because for people that don't know, how did you come together? What were your roles? And why did you enter the hackathon in the first place?
Yes, sure, Richard. So I think obviously we had Dr. Nicola and Juan on the team who did a lot of work with climate risk modeling, and they really helped us to work through the translation of nature risks into the systemic and microeconomic impacts into things such as ecosystems and services value at risk. And then we had Nell, who had a lot of experience with scenario analysis and stress testing. And then putting that together, Gene, who has had a lot of experience with geospatial data sets, he worked a lot on the wireframe and really putting that into a very more visualized idea instead of just us talking it through. And Max, who had a lot of experience within the insurance space, he came up with the business model canvas. And myself, who had worked a lot on sustainability disclosures, was able to help a little bit on everything and putting together sort of like a business use case that we're all happy to work on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so just again, for people, what we try and do is to say, well, look, we're not giving you a blank canvas and saying, just become an impressionist artist. We give you a few ideas, paint by numbers, and as you were listing there, the business model canvas, the wireframe, logical architectures, try and give it a sort of a bit of structure. And that helps us as judges also to really sort of compare and contrast all of the different entries. So you've gone through this process, the teams came together, and you mentioned a couple of the other members of the team that were there. So you came through as winners, and for us it was very clear that you had a completeness of vision and that the scalability importance of this was very, very strong. What do you think will happen as a result of this? And perhaps, Nell, if I go to you first of all for some thoughts on how this will continue.
Yeah, thank you. So I think Max Neri from Moody's, who is a key member of our team, as Q mentioned, he kind of said it best, where he mentioned that really the next steps for us is to start to socialize these ideas that we had. Showcase our slides, for example, talk to potential collaborators, for mutual benefit. Learning from them on, what more can we do to deepen our idea, but also sharing back with them why is this important? We need to be looking at this and try and get some sort of cross-pollination going.
Okay, yeah, and Q, from your perspective?
Yes, apart from looking into partnerships and kind of like networking with people within the space, I think obviously when we were working on a hackathon, a lot of it was very conceptual. So the next step would probably also involve really deep diving into some of these data sets that we had looked at, looking into the feasibility of what regions to target, what sort of nature risks to target, etc.
Yeah, and people might ask, why are people like HSBC in an emerging category and University of Oxford? And it's because, you came together just for this exercise. You'd never met before or communicated before. And so that is one of the most impressive things, that you managed to, gel a cohesive team and idea together. Nicola, coming to you, you spoke obviously at the conference and you've done a lot of formative work which informed even the purpose of the conference. But, from your perspective, bringing your team to this, why did you do that? What does this help? What does this sort of a process do to enable what you're trying to achieve?
Well, thanks, Richard. Well, firstly, let me just say, it was wonderful to work with you, Nell and Q and all the rest of the team. And thank you, Richard, for convening that and bringing us all together. So, how it links to what we do. So we at Oxford obviously look at this from a very academic perspective. So we've been doing a lot of work on methodologies for understanding nature-related risk, actually building very much on what we've done on the climate risk side. We work with financial institutions on that, but fundamentally we're looking at this as academics. So we're doing this from a, furthering knowledge globally as a global public good. And, as part of our work, particularly over the last year, we've produced an enormous amount of data and this new idea of this nature value at risk metric. So for us, this was partly about, okay, how do we actually use all of this data and get it into a format that's really useful to people in the financial sector? So actually the opportunity to work with you and work with the team to enable us to do that, we saw as a really positive thing, because, we are experts in risk and quantifying risk, but we're not practitioners. So actually that bringing together people from different areas was really, really valuable. And similarly, sort of understanding like where are the commercial opportunities from this? Because again, from our perspective, we can only make the data available. We need to work with others that actually have that experience in and can sort of see the value of it in a commercial perspective that can take it that next step forward. And I think certainly on nature risk, if we really want to integrate nature into financial decision making, then we need exactly these kind of partnerships between academia and practitioners, financial institutions that can all bring something to the table and get this information into real decision making.
Yeah, and that was the idea, wasn't it? So Neo One provided us a platform which people could collaborate on and access lots of data. We have people like the UK Space Agency, Innovate UK, European Space Agency, and I know they also have said there are grants even available potentially to take some of these things forward. So yeah, I think interesting, Nicola, that this is a useful exercise for you, and I hope others out there will create similar programs as well. Q, from your perspective, I mean, you were dialing in from abroad. How was it for you to sort of, get teamed up with people and engage in this kind of a topic?
It was quite interesting. I think the 11 p.m. calls were worth it. It was very engaging. The team, like I mentioned earlier, because we had such a diverse set of experiences, and what Dr. Nicola had mentioned is really valuable to bring everyone together. And it wasn't too difficult, even though there were a couple of net calls, and the platform itself was very helpful. I think we had a lot of assistance from people who had access to different kinds of resources, and being able to put all of it together in one space and see how that would actually look like as a final output was really nice for me to see.
Fantastic. Well, look, I'll leave the final word with you now. How was it for you? And did you put a lot of effort into getting this going? Did it work out for you?
It did very much so, and I'm really glad to have been joined by really probably the leading thought leaders in this field, to be honest. Everybody on the team, Nature Delta, they really put everything into it. Doing this as a side on, on top of your day job, can be quite a challenge, but the motivation of doing something tangible and with impact, will, give you that reward at the end. And I would say to anybody thinking about joining a hackathon in the future, please do it for, please go for it. Please do it for the learning, do it for making new friends, and also the exposure, of course, but also testing your ideas. Testing is what you're thinking along the right track, or do you need a bit of refinement around the edges? And I think that value add is is priceless. So thanks again to Naya1 and Richard, yourself and the team.
Yeah, well, thanks. And you're right. I mean, it's that, it takes a bit of bravery. So congratulations to you guys for doing it. But I think this is where the breakthroughs come through. Okay, so that's really interesting, but it's hard probably for people to fully visualize this. So let's have a look at some of the content from the presentation that you guys made. Nell, can you describe to us, how that concept turned into the solution through a couple of your slides? And here we have one present.
Yeah, great. So we have here on the screen our very lightweight wireframe, product wireframe. So at Nature Delta, the aim was to create something quite tangible and something that people can interact with and get familiar with some of these, ecosystem services and related risks. What this dashboard aims to do, and what we tried to explain during the hackathon pitch itself, was to talk through the various sort of widgets or components of the dashboard and the value add from each. So for example, here we showed select your country, Brazil. So in this case, you see a map of Brazil populated on the top with, with water related stress as the next kind of feature of that map. If you were to select another country, US, India, whatever, the equivalent would pop up in that sense. And of course, this is a static image, but we would obviously look to develop this, more interactively in the future. What you see here is also on the map itself some sort of pinpoints, and those pinpoints would be associated with a company's assets, for example. So again, there might be a drop-down option where you could select a company or a sector where major assets are located, and that information would populate and be reactive according to your selections as a user. Things like annual temperature, sensitivity analysis, these are, again, will be embedded features within the dashboard. Forecasting tool was something that we wanted to explore as a stretch goal, really, to see if we can predict into the future with some form of accuracy on potential exposures and dependencies to nature-related risks. From a transition risk side. And then, of course, the aim of the game really is to quantify this in monetary terms, and that's where the VAR, value at risk, comes in, where you may be able to see a table populated at the bottom where it might break down the risk according to various different themes, ecosystem services, risks, or even sectoral based VAR as well. So it's quite flexible, and we wanted to emphasize that during the hackathon. The point being is that all of these individual features, are of great value to a risk practitioner. And to add to that, we also had a lean canvas where essentially this sort of spoke to our kind of more broader goals. So we set out our problem statement, the solution itself, the key metrics on which the dashboard, but also the product itself would lean on, but also why, the unique value proposition being that it's based on a deep sensitivity analysis, looking at nature risks, and that creates a fingerprint, if you like, a baseline, a reference point, which we don't have in nature really. We do have one for climate, because climate has been well studied since the 70s. But for nature, we wanted to kind of not leapfrog, but get to that sort of understanding through a very deep sensitivity analysis, which would allow us to create that reference point baseline. And then from there, that's where you get the delta from Nature Delta, that delta to the risks that you might perceive as a company. That is, that insight is what creates that UVP, the unique value proposition. and of course our customer segments, being key decision makers in the financial ecosystem, and so on. So I think this lean canvas was very well put together by our colleague Max Neri from Moody's, and he had this package in such a way that it made it quite easy to understand the value.
Fantastic. Well, that's always, what impresses us is that, teams like you can come together and produce solutions like this, and yet we sort of feel as though the rest of the world are standing around saying, well, we're confused and don't know how to do it. So, I mean, very much leaders in this piece, and I hope that makes sense to people, the sort of work that you delivered and why you were the winners. So I'll just say for now, Nell, Q and Nicola, thank you so much. We'll wrap it up today and look forward to seeing what comes of this work. So congratulations once again and goodbye.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks all. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.